Hello, I'm Bill Bullard with RCAF USA, the voice of the independent cattle producer in the United States of America. Well, in the wake of the most serious financial crisis ever to hit the largest segment of America's food supply chain, and of course we're talking about the U.S. live cattle industry. And in that wake, Congress has signaled its preferred plan for putting the industry back on course, and it's already patting itself on the back. Now recall that two bills passed out of the U.S. Senate Ag Committee last year, and the new versions of those bills have now been reintroduced and are fully expected to be passed by the committee again. They include the Special Investigator Bill and the Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Bill. Now, the problem with both these bills, and we've made this clear since the moment they were first introduced, is that they don't change how the market functions. Both bills delegate Congress's lawmaking authority to some official or officials in the U.S. Department of Agriculture. But very importantly, neither bill changes the structure of the marketplace, meaning if there is a problem with the structure of the marketplace today, then that problem will persist long after these two bills are passed. So let's answer that important question. Is there a problem with the structure of the cattle market today? Now, I want really badly to say duh, but I won't, even though we've been answering that question for Congress during the past 2 decades with no intelligible response. But now Congress is working on the 2023 Farm Bill and says it wants to know what needs fixing in the food world. So let's do for Congress what political consultants the world over recommend we do. It's KISS, and KISS stands for Keep It Simple, Stupid. So KISS this: exceptionally high beef prices plus a reduction in the farmer's share of that price equals market failure. So that's what Congress needs to do. It needs to reverse market failure in the cattle industry. Now, last year, Americans paid the highest average price ever for beef at the grocery store. That price was $7.59 per pound for choice beef. That's a 27% increase in 8 years. And last year, the share of that grocery store price that made its way to the cattle farmer and rancher was reduced by 27%. That means the price consumers pay for beef jumped 27% during the same time frame that the share of each dollar that goes to the cattle producer is reduced by that very amount. Now, when you see a drastic increase in consumer prices combined with a drastic decrease in the allocation of those prices to producers, then you know there's market failure. We estimate this 27% reduction in the producer's share of the beef price equates to a $550 per head loss on the 26 million head of fed cattle slaughtered last year. That means the U.S. cattle industry lost $14.3 billion in cash receipts last year alone due to market failure. So what's a simple explanation describing the serious crisis facing the cattle industry today? It's this: the industry suffers from market failure. Consumers are paying way too much for beef, while cattle producers are losing over $500 per head for every fed animal they sell. Now notice that we're not even talking cattle prices. Instead, we're looking at the structure of the market itself. Is the marketplace structurally capable of allocating a competitive share of the consumer's beef dollar to every segment of the beef supply chain? And when you see a drastic reduction in that allocation within an 8-year time frame, we know the answer is a resounding no, and therefore that the market is suffering from market failure. So this is the simplest way we can present the problem to Congress. Skyrocketing beef prices combined with a reduced share of those prices to the cattle producers tells us our cattle industry suffers from serious market failure. So just how do you fix market failure? Well, market failure occurs when competition is lacking. And in our case, there isn't enough competition to properly allocate the price of a retail beef along the entire beef supply chain. So to reverse market failure, you must reinsert competition. And the way to do that is to empower consumers to exercise choice in the beef market and to force packers to actually compete for cattle in the cattle market. This certainly isn't rocket science. And there are 3 things Congress can do immediately that will help restore competition. Number 1, enact the American Beef Labeling Act, Senate Bill 52, that requires mandatory country of origin labels, or MCOOL, on beef sold in grocery stores. Number 2, Introduce and then pass a bill to require packers to compete for at least 1/2 of their weekly cattle needs in the competitive cash market. And 3, prohibit alternative marketing arrangements, or AMAs, that do not include a firm base price at the time of the transaction. Now, these 3 measures will have a meaningful impact on market failure. It will begin to restore competition, which is absolutely essential if we're going to keep the U.S. cattle industry looking as we know it is today. With that, have a productive week. Thank you and goodbye.